to T-Bone Southern Ride as we're going down the road at half the speed we need, and we're doing it on the blue moon. So if you are watching this video, happy Halloween, guys. You have made it to the crescendo of T-Bone Southern Ride presents the rocking, shocking October of motos and mayhem. And what a ride it has been, guys. But we're here, the crescendo, the one you've been waiting on. I had said in previous videos leading up to this one that I was giving this day to one guy. 4 different movies, all made by the same guy. And I heard a lot of people saying, a lot of comments, who they thought it was going to be. I'd have to go back. I'm not sure if anybody actually commented on who it was and got it right, but we're here. Halloween day, guys. As you can tell, if you have followed the Southern Ride for a while, Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. It may be my favorite holiday. And I have given a lot of attention to this video series. Of course, talking about the rocking, shocking October of motos and mayhem. We began this thing all the way back at the beginning of October, guys, and now here we are. We're at the end. We have met the criteria, so to speak. And this is going to kind of be a changing of the old guard for the Southern Ride, because I go ahead and tell you now, I was going to wait till the last video to tell you, but I want to start this video by saying thank you guys who have come with me, who have supported me in the rocking, shocking October of motos and mayhem. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. You guys have really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed making this, because if you haven't realized one thing through this entire situation, it's that I am a movie buff. I love movies. I'm a horror movie fan. And that may be one of my problems now, is I may have filled my brain with too much horror movie knowledge. It may be why I have a hard time remembering things now. But nonetheless, it came to this point right here. So thank you. And I'll tell you guys, way back when I was doing T-Bone's Tender Moments, I spent a year doing that, and now I've come into just in the Southern Ride video section, guys. We're getting close to 100 videos. So we've put some time in this summer making content, riding, trying to bring you guys the best of my rides and let you guys into my world and let you take part in enjoying what I enjoy, which is motorcycles and movies. And I enjoy horror movies. I enjoy all movies, but my genre of choice is horror movies. And I know a lot of people have said, why didn't any of the classics make it? Where's the Nightmare on Elm Street? Where's the Halloween series? Where's Friday the 13th? Well, guys, those didn't make it because I wanted to shine the light on older movies, but I also wanted to shine the light on movies that may not have gotten the attention that they should have gotten. Which brings me to today being the day. The guy that's going to own Halloween on T-Bone Southern Ride is none other than Mr. Rob Zombie. That's right, Rob Zombie wins the honor of being the Halloween King on T-Bone Southern Ride for Halloween Day. You know, this first movie, which is the very first one I'm going to talk to you about, is House of a Thousand Corpses. Now, here we are, guys, coming up on nearly 20 years, just in another year or so, nearly 20 years. This movie was made in 2003. House of a Thousand Corpses. Now, when you think about House of a Thousand Corpses, Rob Zombie as a musician, whether he was with White Zombie, whether it was, Rob Zombie, Hellbilly Deluxe is one of my favorite albums in the rock genre. That's where we got to see Rob kind of be the super beast that he was. But when the inklings that Rob Zombie, because I can remember the release of House of a Thousand Corpses, and I thought, ooh, can this guy kind of leave the music world and just stumble into the movie world and make horror movies? I think I shared that shock with a lot of people when the word came down that, Rob Zombie was making the House of a Thousand Corpses movie. I thought, ooh. But then I started seeing the build-up for it. I started seeing that the promos started showing, and it was like, ooh, okay, maybe Rob is, maybe he's got a story to tell. And I was not disappointed when I saw the House of a Thousand Corpses for the first time. Made me an even bigger fan of Rob Zombie, and it made me a fan of his style of telling a horror story. Because Rob really was influenced by the classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A lot of the older 70s and 80s horror movies, you could see it in the writing and the story that was being told in House of a Thousand Corpses, that Rob was very influenced by that era and by that genre, meaning he was very happy with his work, that it was not only telling a new kind of story, he was telling a new story with an old setting. Because if you break down the House of a Thousand Corpses, set in the 70s, when Leatherface and a lot of those stories were being told in the 70s, this could be another story to come from the 70s. And of course, the cast that he used. And guys, if one character came out of the Three from Hell series, House of a Thousand Corpses produced one character that everybody seemed to just gravitate toward and love, and that was the character of Captain Spalding. Of course, in the House of a Thousand Corpses movie, Captain Spalding wasn't a focal point. He was in the movie, but he wasn't a focal point. Of course, the focal point at that time was Baby. She was the focal point, which was played brilliantly by Sherry Moon Zombie, Rob's wife, real life wife. She brought the character of the whiny killer girl, Baby, to life. She made her real, made her accessible. But the other character was Bill Moseley, who, of course, played Otis Driftwood. Now, for my horror movie aficionados, House of a Thousand Corpses was nowhere near Bill Moseley's first introduction to the horror fans. If you go all the way back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, you find Bill Moseley playing the character in that movie who had the metal plate exposed on his head and who would heat up the clothes hanger with the cigarette lighter and scratch the metal plate on his head with it. That was Bill Moseley, who now plays Otis Driftwood in this saga. And Bill Moseley killed it. Rob Zombie's costume design killed it. Moseley brought a lot to it as being a artist, I guess is the only way really to put it, is being an artist of his craft, and his craft, he just done weird stuff. And of course he was the main antagonist, but it all kind of went around a legend, which was the old Deadwood legend of Dr. Satan, whom you find to kind of see in the end that maybe the Firefly family actually worked for Dr. Satan. Of course, in the character, Sid Hegg played Captain Spalding, and I had known about Sid Hegg for a long time, but I had kind of forgotten about him because Sid Hegg showed up on one of my favorite episodes of the A-Team, where he of course played a biker who was in jail, and the town was kind of scared because all of his biker buddies were going to come and break him out of jail, and of course the A-Team stepped in. But Sid Hegg was another one of those guys who came out of the 70s era, and of course as Captain Spalding, he was introduced to an entire new generation of horror fans, very much like Bill Moseley was with the character of Otis Driftwood. And Rob just kind of gave these guys the ball, and there was a bunch of legends he brought into this, brought into the franchise, and throughout the franchise they kept reoccurring, and he introduced new characters. And Tiny was a new character. And guys, I'm not going to try to butcher these people's real names. If I don't know them, I'm just going to say I don't know the real name. I will try to, in editing, add the real name of the character. But they kind of focused on the entire family. Of course, Grandpa Hugo, whom is another actor that came out of the... He was back in the 50s and 60s. I seen the guy who played Grandpa Hugo be in westerns. And of course he was an actor who went on acting right up till the end, sort of like Sid Hegg did. But Rob Zombie with the House of a Thousand Corpses actually told an interesting story that captured, and people got invested in the story, and I'm not sure Rob expected it to be what it turned out to be, or to be as popular as it turned out to be. But House of a Thousand Corpses, guys, focuses on 4 teenagers in the 70s who are kind of on this, cross-country trip, and they're checking out weird and odd attractions. And the need for gas kind of lands them in Captain Spaulding's gas station. And from there, the journey begins. And they pick up baby hitchhiking on the side of the road, and of course they have a blowout on their car, and they end up at the Firefly farm. And they kind of what happens next is just a melee of Halloween tradition, and you find out Karen Black, who played Mother Firefly in the original, in the House of a Thousand Corpses, you kind of find out that they all love Halloween. And of course she's telling the backstories of Tiny being in the house, and her husband at the time, or the guy she was living with, had set the house on fire, and Tiny ended up getting really, really burnt. And then she kind of just sets it up for, you got to put on your mask before you can eat Halloween dinner, and then just a setup that brings in Otis Driftwood onto the screen. And I'm not going to give any of it away, but you've got to go watch Bill Moseley's entrance excuse me, guys, into the House of a Thousand Corpses, because they brought him in very, very, very strangely. But of course the movie takes several twists and turns, and these kids soon realize that their trip into the odd attractions on the side of the road in these small towns may have just pretty well much abruptly come to an end. They may have reached the end of their, because it looks like at one point that, you know, they're all back in the car, the blown out tire's been fixed, and they're actually pulling away from the house, but there's a closed gate, and you think, man, they're going to escape. And then one gets out to open the gate, and all hell breaks loose. And really, a nightmare sequence begins for these kids. And what I love about what Rob did with this movie, because the old formula in the past had been, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in Hills Have Eyes, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, there had always been a heroine who had escaped. Now, Rob set it up to look like that was what was going to happen at the end of A House of a Thousand Corpses. So Captain Spalding picks up our heroine, and Otis Driftwood raises up out of the back of Captain Spalding's car in the back seat, and it just cuts away, and you're like, oh crap, she didn't make it. And then it's kind of one of those things where Rob did it so subtly. You know, you start rooting for some of these characters. You start rooting for the Otis Driftwoods. You're rooting for the babies. You're rooting for the Captain Spauldings. And you know what I think was probably Rob's forte with this series is that he took total underdogs, bad guys, killers, you know, and before then, in horror movies, you never really sympathize with the main antagonist. You never really sympathize with Michael Myers. You never really sympathize with Jason Voorhees. You never really sympathize with Leatherface. And what Rob was able to do with The House of a Thousand Corpses was to set up characters that, yes, they did all these bad things and they were crazy, batshit crazy. He set them up to be, okay, they're crazy, yeah, but you can still sympathize with not the character itself, but maybe just the story that you find that these characters are in. And I think that was just a masterful piece of storytelling from The House of a Thousand Corpses. And to be a horror fan and to see that a guy who had written this story had made characters like that, it was kind of shocking, just to be honest with you, because it was like, well, we've never seen that before. You know, we come from the universe where good is good, bad is bad, good wins, and you know, we were now thrown into where all bets were off. And that's kind of what the very essence of what made it such a good story was. And now when you break it down from a character standpoint, of course, he hit gold with Otis Driftwood, he hit gold with Captain Spaulding, and he hit gold with Baby, because his wife, like I said, she brought that character to life. But he made Baby, and of course Sherry Zombie was a beautiful woman, very sexual, very attractive, but by the end of A House of a Thousand Corpses, she was so obnoxious that you were kind of rooting for her demise. You know, the way she, and Sherry Zombie has this thing that she can do with her voice, that she can go in and it's like, oh my God, will somebody please kill this girl, shut her up, do something. And of course, with House of a Thousand Corpses, you don't get that. You don't get the main antagonist dying. And that's rare, because And up till this movie, your main antagonist died in the movie, although he miraculously came back. Like, you know, how many times did Freddy Krueger die? Or how many times did Jason Voorhees die? Or how many times were we sure that Michael Myers was dead? And yet next Halloween or next year, well, here comes part 4, here comes part 5. Well, okay, well then you have to put a supernatural connection to it, which is what made those horror movies what they were. Even though, you know, the heroine or the hero that you were rooting for at the end of the movie was still alive, we knew that the antagonist, although dead, was never dead. So Rob Zombie with House of a Thousand Corpses took that formula completely off the table, because yeah, things had kind of unraveled at the end of the movie, but none of the main antagonists were dead. Otis Driftwood was still alive, Baby was still alive, Captain Spalding was still alive, Mother Firefly was still alive. So you knew by the end of House of a Thousand Corpses that the story wasn't really over yet. But you know, knowing that they weren't dead, and what Rob did there, and I think this is one of the things that kept so much interest and how people got so invested in the characters that came out of House of a Thousand Corpses, was that one element that, you know, hey, these people aren't dead. They're very much alive. And that kind of got captured in Leatherface at the end of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Leatherface was standing out in the middle of the road, swinging his chainsaw around, attacking 18-wheelers when they come by, attacking cars when they come by. So when you got to the end of the movie, you knew, hey, there's a real possibility that there will be another one, because the main antagonist isn't dead. There's no supernatural force like with Freddy Krueger and Nightmare on Elm Street selling out to the dream people, quote unquote, who give him his power to haunt people's dreams and to be essentially a invincible character. There wasn't none of that. It was just this group of this family had survived. And I thought that was beautiful, beautiful storytelling by Rob, because when you do that, when you're able to do that, when you're able to introduce all these antagonists, and at the end of the day, you take the power away from the heroine or the hero, they don't really escape, and these people aren't really dead, then you're like, oh crap. Well, then how I walked away from the original House of Thousand Corpses feeling was, this is just the beginning of something. And of course, we come back with the next movie in this series, which is The Devil's Rejects, which I will be getting to in the next video. But guys, that's kind of going to wrap this video up on the rocking, shocking October of Motos and Mayhem, House of a Thousand Corpses. You know, people can say what they want to, but Rob Zombie really hit a home run with House of a Thousand Corpses. And I know it wasn't for everybody. I know there's people out there who absolutely hated the franchise, did not support Rob Zombie as a writer, director, producer, but there are a good number of us who really enjoy Rob's work, because it wasn't just this series, the House of a Thousand Corpses series. I mean, Rob has went back and he has remade Halloween, and I am a fan of the original Halloween series. Guys, I'm riding through something that's choking me to death. I'm sorry. I am a fan of the original Halloween series, but I thought that Rob's take on his remake of Halloween, where he not only told the story of Michael Myers being an adult, he showed us the backstory of Michael being a kid. Okay, this is the steps. We all know he was a crazy killer as an adult, but these are the steps that got him to that point. And I really thought that he told a masterful story with Halloween. I'm a fan of Halloween 1 and 2. Of course, he made a part 2 to his original remake. I'm a fan of Rob's remake of Halloween. I thought he did an excellent, tasteful job. He told an excellent story. He opened up the main antagonist a lot more. And that's kind of where you're at with the House of a Thousand Corpses series. But I tell you what, guys, that's pretty well much going to bring video 1. Now remember, there's 3 more videos to come today, and now the cat's out of the bag, so you know that the next 3 videos in this series will be Rob Zombie movies. I really hope that you guys, you know, I'm not sure what time of the day these are going to be released, but if you don't get to watch them for Halloween, in the next few days, check them out. Give Rob Zombie a look. I know there's some people who have never seen The House of a Thousand Corpses and have watched Rob's later movies and been impressed with his work. Even if you have saw it, go back and give it another glance. Give it a second look. There might be something there that will shockingly surprise you. And I'll tell you what, guys, thank you for joining me here. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. And when I get ready to shoot the last video for this series, guys, I'm going to have a breaking announcement that's going to affect T-Bone Southern Rise. So check these videos out and stay tuned for that, because it will be a big announcement that's actually going to change the face of T-Bone Southern Ride. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment, stay with us all day. Thank you for watching this video, and until the next video, guys, I'm T-Bone, and this has been the Southern Ride.